Does any of this sound familiar to you? I'm in a good job, I'm making good money, so why am I so unfulfilled? Why am I feeling so restless? Why am I feeling like there's this void inside of me? Or maybe you've thought to yourself, you know, I just got started with this thing a couple of years ago. It's going okay, but something doesn't feel like it aligns for me. I feel like I can do more. I feel like there's more that I need to be doing in this world. If any of this sounds like thoughts, feelings, questions you've had within yourself, well, today's conversation is sure to help. My name is Marsha Flemings Walker, and welcome back to the Lead Her Lab. Today, we're going to be discussing how we go from career to calling. How is it that we really make a transition when we recognize we've built a career, we've been building this career, but we recognize that we're not operating in the space that we know we ought to be operating in. So whether it is you decide that you're going to stay in your career and build your calling, walk in your calling, or you're going to transition away from your career and walk in your calling full time, whatever that calling may be for you. How do you start to navigate that? What are the things that you need to consider? Well, today we're going to just be touching on about 5 things that will help you navigate the space between career and calling. So first of all, when we talk about career, when I talk about career in this video, what I'm talking about is that thing that you do to earn income, and you are intentional in advancing within that field, within that industry, within that organization over a period of time. So it's not just about the money for you. You actually want to grow in this area. That's what we're talking about when we say career. So when we talk about calling, we are talking about something that you identify yourself with, that gives you a sense of fulfillment, something that you feel an alignment between what you do and who you are. Not just feel, but there is an alignment between the work that you do and who you are as an individual. So you can be operating in a career and doing well at it, but you identify it's not your calling because there isn't an alignment with who you are and the work that you are doing. There's a disconnect. Okay, so today we're talking about how do you go from operating in just a career and transition into your calling, whether you're going to keep the two or you're going to pursue your calling and live your calling full time. So one of the first things you want to do is you want to listen. You want to listen to your internal emotions and thoughts and frustrations and feelings. Not that our feelings are facts, but it's that you're becoming in tune with yourself. Your calling is always going to be something that you identify with. It comes from inside of you. So if there is a void in your career, if there's a frustration, what's happening is that you are having internal clues or cues that are saying to you, I want to have this kind of impact. This is how I want to be able to reach people. This is how I want to, this is the kind of work that I want to do. This is a thing that is purposeful to me that is not present in my career. So really sitting with and listening to and exploring those internal thoughts, those internal desires is one thing that is going to help you resolve what direction you may need to go in for your calling. So one of the first things you want to do is to listen. Pay attention to the thoughts that you've been having. Pay attention to the desire that you've been having in terms of doing something more. Has there been something that you have been thinking many times? It's for years that you've been thinking, this is something I want to do, and we find many excuses to procrastinate. We forget about it. And every year or 2 years or so, the thought reemerges that this is something I would like to do. That is because you've identified yourself in that kind of work and it aligns with who you are. So you want to be able to pay attention and give space to what has been happening internally and examine if it is pointing you in a particular direction. So number 1 is listen. So number 2, you want to make a decision. And I probably should have put number 2 before number 1, because the truth of the matter is many of us, we have this internal struggle with our calling, and sometimes it's over the course of years and decades, and it keeps resurfacing. But because we're on a particular career path, because we are earning a certain level of income, because our lives have become comfortable, or sometimes it's not even that it's comfortable, it's that we are already stuck and familiar, we're stuck in and familiar with a routine. So expanding beyond our comfort zone and what is familiar to us is not always something that many people invite. But if you are really serious about getting rid of the void that you're feeling, getting rid of the feeling that says, I am unfulfilled despite whatever I do, and I really want to tap into and walk in what I am aligned with, the thing that is calling me to do, the work that I identify me in, my inner self, my truest self, I want to walk that out. So then if that is the case, you have to make a decision, because it's a process. It is a process. And I would love to tell you that it's, something that happens quickly. And once you identify it, it just, things just start to, that's not always how it moves. That's not always how it happens or evolves. This is a process of uncovering and discovering. I truly believe, based on my experience, based on the experience of others that I know, and different conversations that I've had, that in our very early years, we are really drawn to those things. We're really drawn to, or we exhibit the skills, the talents, the abilities that align with our calling. But somewhere along the line, whether how we were socialized or however that affected our thinking, some of us start to drift away from that thing. But because it is an internal thing, it's always going to be beckoning to us. So when I say make a decision, it's that you could arrive at a place where you say, you know what? I'm good in my job. I'm making good money. It's comfortable. It's safe. Whatever it gives to you that you said, you know what? I should be okay with this. If that's where you are, then I can't tell you not to be there. But if you are at the point where you say, you know what? I do not want to live with this feeling anymore, and I want to be able to go through the process of discovery, and I want to walk through this evolution, and I want to become and do the work that I am purposed to do, then make a decision in the now, because the process is not going to be overnight, right? And even aside from it not being overnight, it's not always going to be pretty. There's a lot we're going to have to uncover and unpack. And if you're going to be building a business that aligns with your calling, for example, that's also not going to happen overnight. That's also going to have bumps in the road. But without making a decision that this is the thing that I am going to do, because I no longer want to live my life feeling like I am out of alignment, it requires a decision to take that journey. So number one is listen. Number two is decide. Number three is reflect. I want you to reflect on some things that you desired very early. When you were a young child, what were some of the things that you said very early that you wanted to do? What were some of the skills and talents and abilities that started to show up at a very early age? Over the course of your life, you want to reflect on what are some of the things that I've been doing that people seem to often come to me for help, or they often come to me and ask my advice or ask my opinion in these things. So you want to take an opportunity to reflect. And this reflection may not all happen just you sitting down for a half hour today or 1 hour today. It may be a process. It may be something that you will go back to, and you give yourself an opportunity. You give yourself a few weeks to say, this is something that I want to sit with. You may go as far as having conversations with your family and people who've known you over the years for many years, people who've known you from childhood, and start to examine what were my desires, what is something that even maybe, let's say as a young adult, that I thought to myself, I'd love to be able to do this. but I just drifted away from it. I never made it a plan. I never made it a goal that I was working towards. And every 2 years, every 3 years, every new year, even, the thought would come to me that this is something that I would really love to be able to do. It seems to be calling you, right? Take an opportunity to do this reflective work, because this is a part of the exploration, right? It's already inside of you, but people think that by listening to videos like this, going to conferences, while these things have their place, they are not giving you your purpose. All they're helping you to do is to uncover and discover what is already inside of you. But a part of that process is reflected. You can't, in fact, do this without having a reflective opportunity, or giving yourself a reflective opportunity throughout this process. So you want to sit in reflection, whether you do some of that on your own, most of it on your own, or you invite other people, just not necessarily to invite them in to tell them what you're about, but asking them about what they identified in you. What were some of the things you said as a young child? Because sometimes truly we forget, because we've allowed life and all that we have been busy doing to distract us from what's been inside of us, calling us all along. So number 4 is we have to also be willing to explore. For many of us, for all of us really, no matter what your calling is, particularly if you have not been walking in it, and this is a transition that you are making, there is going to be some exploration, there is going to be some learning, there is going to be some figuring out of how does this look, what will it look like, what am I building? I'll use myself as an example very quickly. So at 8 years old, I started writing. And back then, I said that I would publish my first book at 21 years old. And it took me longer than that. That was my own limited thinking, but that's not what we're discussing today. But ultimately, I published my book in my 30s. And over the years, when I was doing reflective work, one of the things that I recognized is that I was writing from a very early age. It felt it that's who I was. That's the only way I can explain. I can't even say writing it's something that I was aligned with. It's who I was. That's how I expressed myself. Even to myself, that's how I express myself, is through my writing. Over the years, in different communities that I would be attached to, in the organizations that I would work with, people would always come to me for assistance with report writing, with looking over emails, just different things that were always pointing to my writing. People would say, you just have a way with words, particularly when you write. I'm a much stronger writer than I am a speaker, right? But I had to sit and reflect. I had to sit and think about my life and what my skills and talents were. What did I start exhibiting from a very early age? What has followed me throughout my life that I was dismissing? And I was dismissing it because there were times that over those years, over those decades, over those 3 decades, that I would be writing or attempting to write whatever book I was wanting to publish, and I would just look at it, tear it up, get rid of it, and think it's not good enough, right? So there's an exploration that comes with the process. Finally, when I got the first book published, the next thing I thought, oh, so now that I have the book published, I need to become a speaker. And so I was doing a speaking coaching, or I had a coach, speaking coach. So I had a speaking coach, and going through that process allowed me to realize that while developing my speaking abilities and my ability to present to a room is definitely going to help me, because I'm going to need to talk about this book. I'm going to need to engage with people who are interested in the book. And I knew I would be writing other books. While that would help me, it certainly wasn't the focus. I would not have known that had I not gone through that process, right? So it is an exploration. It is something that you are going to discover in the doing. You are going to discover many things in the doing. And unfortunately, actually, I think it's a beautiful thing that we discover in the doing, and not sitting on the sidelines, and not just thinking everything will come through our own thoughts. It's actually in the doing that we discover a lot about who we are, about the work that we align with, and what we are called to do. Finally, I want to encourage you to learn from others. We invest all the time, we invest our time and a lot of money learning from colleges and universities, and we get our degrees and we go out there, and many of us don't even do work that is connected with the degree that we earn, or we earn the degree and never really use what we went into college to learn in the first place. We end up doing something completely different, right? So my thing is, if you're willing to do that, I'm going to encourage you to be willing to invest both your time and your resources, your finances, to learn from someone who has done what you are desiring to do. Not to do it just like them, not to become the next fill in the blank. You're still going to be you. What I can tell you is, in operating in your calling, whether you're going to be building a business, nonprofit, whatever that may look like for you, mentorship, coaching, guidance, learning from those who have done it before you actually collapses time. It shortcuts what you have to do and avoids you making mistakes that you could just learn from them, because they made those mistakes already and they have the benefit of experience. And so you can learn from them instead of taking another 5 to 10 years to learn it yourself. You are using their 5, 10, 20 years to learn now, so that you can be fast-tracked with what you are building. These were just 5 things that I want you to understand are part of the process in going from career to calling. And check the description, comments below. I'll be hosting a career to calling workshop where we really deep dive into an actual process of transitioning from career to calling. And that's going to be happening April 27, 2023. And likely to repeat itself. So whatever time you're watching this, feel free to click the link and check out when we'll be having the next installment of that virtual workshop. All right. So as always, I look forward to reading your comments and hearing where you are in this journey. Is this something that you are currently dealing with? Are you in a career and feeling unfulfilled and feeling like there's more impact that you want to make in the world and not sure how you make that transition? So until next time, I will see you. It's time for us to go out and lead.